Hello, 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 and welcome back to the BFA Baby podcast. As always, I'm your host, Taylor Hartman, and today we are back just one-on-one. We've had a couple interview episodes come and go. Last couple episodes have been interviews, but we are back one-on-one today. If you are watching on YouTube, I am wearing a men's button-down that I got for $2 that was originally $60, so yay for a thrift find. But yeah, so a few updates before we get into it. It is our first one-on-one episode back after a couple interviews. Very exciting. We're going to talk about tech today. I know that I usually gear this podcast towards like young adults in the arts, which is like so dramatic and silly to say, but young adults. But I kind of wanted this one to be like my currently in high school, maybe you're just starting out episode. Because I think that we need that too. I mean, we need a lot of things, but I think that that's something that's also really important. So this will be sort of like you just got cast in your first show and you've heard the tech week is going to be hell. Here's some things you need to know episode. So that's what we'll get into in a little bit. What else is happening? We had a tornado warning earlier this week. I guess, yeah, it was earlier this week on Sunday. But we're all good. We were all good. It got a little stormy, but all good. I am working on a dance film. I'm going to make a whole episode about, like, once the process is completely over, I'm going to make an entire episode about, like, the film and what we did and all the fun things about the film I'm going to make an episode about. But, yeah, we're working on it. We just finished shooting, last night. So, Tuesday we filmed all of the like dancing, like choreography dancing, and then yesterday we filmed all of the like in between silly little, like there's like a skit in the beginning where she like wakes up and she's like, what am I gonna wear? And so we filmed all that, and like the in-betweens, there's like a part where she's like running home, so we have like a running section. Yeah, so we filmed kind of the odds and ends last night, but we wrapped, and it was really exciting. So now it's up to me to edit, and we have some high hopes for this edit. We really do, but it's starting to look really good. I've kind of started like mixing the music and everything, so it's been really exciting. But yeah, so we're working on a lot of things. We're keeping the podcast going. I hope you're enjoying season 2. I almost said season 3. Not yet, but I hope you're enjoying season 2, so let's hop into it. Consider this Taylor's Declassified Tech Week Survival Guide. Do y'all remember that show? No, wait, pause. Time out before we start. Do y'all remember that show, Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide? Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide, right? Is that the full name? Anyways, Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide, yeah. We were talking about rewatch podcasts after Scott Kramer had made his video about rewatch podcasts. And then I was like, we were on talking about the rewatch podcast with my friends. Scott Kramer had made the video about him. We were kind of like, oh, it's kind of interesting. And we were on TikTok. And the kids they're not kids anymore, they're full adults, but like, the former children of Ned's Declassified have like a rewatch podcast, and I was like, dude, I'm about to start listening to it. That sounds like really interesting. Yeah, the rewatch podcasts, if you don't know, those are the ones where like the actors from the show will like, go episode by episode and tell you about things that happen behind the scenes or the story or what they felt. I know the most popular one that comes to my mind is Office Ladies. I think there's a Ned's Declassified one. I think there's a Wizards of Waverly Place one. There's a Dance Moms one. I was never a Dance Moms kid, but I do know that is a thing that exists. But yeah, so I think the big thing is shouting out Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide, but also I guess their podcast. Let's hold on. Ned's Declassified podcast. Yes, Ned's Declassified Podcast Survival Guide. Let me pull up their description. I don't know when this became a shout out, but Welcome to Ned's Declassified podcast survival guide. Join Ned, Mose, and Cookie. Oh my god, I forgot there was a kid named Cookie in this show. As they rewatch their hilarious adventures on the series, share their ups and downs from middle school to adulthood, and chat with special guests throughout the podcast. Dive back into the classic Nickelodeon show to relive all the wacky moments, lessons learned, and crushes had. Whether you're a nostalgic fan or discovering the show for the first time, join us for a wild ride through the halls of James K. Polk Middle School and get ready for some survival guide tips, tricks, and ridiculous anecdotes from the ultimate podcast survival guide. Yeah, so they're like, it's about their time on the show. Oh, they're like putting things out like currently. They like just put, this is like happening now. I thought this was like honestly kind of older at this point. Oh, and then they have, like, guests. Like, they got, Andre from Victorious on here. Dude, I'm about to tune into this podcast. Anyways, so, yeah. Ned's Declassified Podcast Survival Guide and Taylor's Declassified Tech Week Survival Guide. So, let's just jump into the basics. You've been cast in a show. Let's say it's at your school, it's at a community theater, it's wherever. You've been cast in a show, and it's your very first one, and you're so excited. And you're like, this is it, and this is your introductory to, like, being the theater kid of your dreams, and, you know, this is it, and it's kind of been floating around as tech has getting closer and everything, that, like, Tech Week's gonna suck, and honestly, it kind of will, but I feel like to immediately go in with that assumption that it's gonna just like absolutely wreck you. I mean, it won't be easy, but it's like to go in with the assumption that's absolutely gonna wreck you is already gonna put you on the wrong foot. So I'd recommend going in with an open mind. Know that it's gonna be a lot of work, but have fun with it. You know, some of my favorite like theatrical memories are like during tech or during like final dress or whatever. So yeah, I mean they're really awesome. And so yeah, I think a basic place to start would just be like, what do your tech weeks look like? And for most theaters, tech is you're in the theater for the very first time. You're on the stage with the wings and everything, and you're starting to work in the tech elements. So your light, any added like canned sounds, sets, costumes. You're starting to work in your tech elements, and it's slow and it's tedious, but this is if you consider all the rehearsal that you put into the performance side, Tech Week is the really quick rehearsal that the crew gets to put your show on. And I think my biggest piece of advice before we get into specifics is just, like, know your stuff. Like, this is not the time, like, you've had rehearsal, you know, and rehearsals where you figure out, like, the kinks and the blocking and the lines, and things obviously may change during tech, with tech, out, you know, whatever. But, like, basically, you want to walk into tech with your lines and your blocking and your choreography or whatever you're doing on stage, your dance, whatever, like it's the back of your hand, you know. This is really for the crew, and obviously, like, you guys are going to be there because they're lighting you and dressing you and staging you. However, knowing your stuff is, like, probably the most critical thing. Like, I can't tell you the number of, like, director... I wanted to say, like, meltdown, but, like, that's, like, really dramatic. The amount of director just kind of, like, frustration directed at the cast whenever it's, like, why are you calling line when we go up in a week? You know what I mean? So, my biggest piece for going into tech is just, like, know your stuff. Know your lines, know your blocking, know your choreography, practice, because it starts to get real really quickly, and you're like, oh yeah, people are gonna see this on stage, like, soon. So just know your stuff, practice, really soak up everything you learn in those rehearsals. And yeah, that's my biggest tip. Just know all your stuff by the time you get to tech. Be really confident about it. So then eventually when things do change, when blocking changes, or, you know, a scene gets cut short or whatever, then, you know, you're not also trying to balance, like, oh, what's my line in this next scene? Where am I supposed to be? You know, that's just something you can kind of be like, okay, plug this in here, and, you know, just kind of quickly adapt when you're not also wasting brain space worrying about, like, what's going on in the brain. If you, like, know your lines and you know your stuff and it's, like, second nature at this point, then I feel like Tech Week can also be a lot less stressful, because the changes that are rapidly happening aren't also trying to fit into a brain that is full. So I kind of am, I want to circle back to, like, this is your first show, and a lot of people start in middle school or high school or, like, in a community theater. Regardless, if you are in a school setting, and if you're in, like, an academic setting and it is your first Tech Week, or if it is your Tech Week and you are in an academic setting, whether that's middle school, high school, college, a community theater, whatever, work ahead as much as possible. And I say that with a couple caveats. I say that, obviously, don't rush through your work. Still, you know, your education is just as important as your show, as much as you may or may not want that to be true. You know, just work ahead. It just kind of heightens the stress of putting your show up when you're like, I also am behind on 4 assignments that are also catching up this week. Because I know if you're in high school, at least my high school, our shows were always, like, right before finals, like, at the end of the spring semester. So if, you know, kind of stay on top of your work, get your things done. My biggest piece of advice for this is to use your spare time wisely. And this is, like, the best thing that I picked up in high school, is, like, when you're doing tech, there's going to be a lot of hurry up and wait. I mean, there always is in the arts, but especially, like, if you're in tech, you know, get in costume, get ready to run, but, oh, something happened with the lights, wait. And I think using all of those, like, hurry up and wait moments, using, like, scenes you're not in, or, like, if a dinner break is, like, well, thank God if a dinner break is really long, but if for whatever reason a dinner break is long or you have some spare time, use that time to work on your assignments, use that time to study. The biggest thing that I can tell you is just to get as much done as you can, because also it sucks when you get out of rehearsal at midnight and then have to go home and write an English paper, or do, like, a chemistry lab write-up, or, like, what else did I do in high school that was, like, really just a personal finance quiz, you know, like, do the most with the time that you have. And obviously there are times where it's like, I need you, like, pause, I need you, like, completely dialed into this right now. But there's also, especially in the earliest days of tech, there's going to be a lot of hurry up and wait. So I would definitely, like, just use that time to your advantage, use that time to your benefit, and I think that it'll turn out really, really great. Next up, these two kind of go together. You have to know, and this is going to sound really hypocritical if you know me or you've been in a show with me before, you have to know your priorities. Very obviously, your priorities are sleep, food, and water. And on that, indention, snacks. So obviously, you want to have, you have to be, prime physical condition is, like, a really dramatic term, but you do kind of have to be in good physical condition to be able to be in a show. You know, you have to be healthy and have a clear mind and hydrated, and you can sing and you can act and, you know, all the things. And the biggest thing is prioritizing all of that, which can be very hard, especially, like, on top of a show. Therefore, the thing that really got me to start being like, oh, they're, like, really right about that is, like, if you're, you know, like, exhausted and dehydrated and hungry or whatever, and, you know, you're running these texts, and it's not even just like, oh, it's late and I'm tired, it's like, oh, I am, like, unwell, and, like, if you're not going to be able to get through it now, you're not going to be able to get through it with an audience. And I think that a lot of people, we're going on a little bit of a tangent, but I think a lot of people try to rely on their adrenaline too much. I think a lot of performers are like, oh, I won't, like, pull a full face or a full cry or whatever you're doing, like, because I know when I get in front of an audience that it'll happen. And honestly, I was like that a lot as a kid. Like, I was always really scared to, like, pull facials or whatever, like, when I was dancing. But I think the biggest piece of advice is just to commit to everything because some days your adrenaline isn't there, and some days the audience isn't going to be like giving you the energy that you need to like sustain your performance. So I would just say, on top of everything, just commit from day one of rehearsal. Commit to what you're doing, commit to your blocking, commit to everything. Just don't rely on your adrenaline. However, don't also rely on your adrenaline to keep your stamina, your energy up. You need food and sleep and water, and that brings me into bring snacks. Bring snacks to Tech Week. I ate all of the snacks. Every Tech Week I've ever had at MSU has been sponsored by the Craig Hall vending machines. We get a lot of snacks, and at the point of your out rehearsal to midnight every night, and then you're getting up for 8 a.m. classes, and you're dancing, and you're doing all the things, and you're acting, and you're singing, and whatever, at that point, it's not about, like, oh, that's healthy, that's unhealthy. Like, in my eyes, food is food at that point. Like, I mean, and we could talk all about it on the pod, we can make an argument about it, but at the point of, like, you're in tech, and it's, like, stressful and tiring, and everyone is, like, the whole time, like, the argument that we can make is that food is food, and if the choice is no food at all, or, like, a Hershey's from the vending machine downstairs, please choose the Hershey's from the vending machine downstairs. And, you know, it may not be the most, like, wise option, but it's better than nothing at all. Therefore, pack some snacks. Bring some snacks from home. Bring a lunchbox, maybe. Good Tech Week snacks, I think, there's a couple things that make a good Tech Week snack. One, a lot of protein. Some peanut butter in there. Two, they're not messy. No, this is like when you tell kids, like, for their dance recital, like, don't eat in costume, don't drink anything that's not water. You know, it's because it's like you don't want to mess up the costume or the makeup or whatever. And they're also children's, because so they're messy. But the biggest thing is, like just kind of clean, easy to take, easy to eat snacks. I always think, what are kind of my go-tos? I really like Triscuits with, like, cheese, put a little ice pack in a lunchbox, maybe, like, carrots and hummus, anything with peanut butter. I make this, I think Sam, like, just talked about it in her episodes, but there is, like, you could take, like, peanut butter and, like, rolled oats, and then I put chocolate chips in mine, and you, like, make them into little circles, spheres, kind of like a little protein pack, sweet snack, and those keep really well. I mean, you keep them in the fridge, keep them kind of cold, and it's just, like, a lot of protein, you got some sugar in there. So, like, just snacks that are easy to eat, filling, will kind of keep you going for a bit. I think that's, like, very critical, because obviously your sleep, food, and hydration are your priorities during tech to keep you well and healthy for the show. And so that's food. Let's cover water. I have a big water bottle over there. I'm looking, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm looking to my left, because that's where it is. It's like 40 ounces, and I would recommend drinking all of it multiple times. I always say that when people ask me about, like, tech or whatever, I always say that it's akin to, like, the last practice before the big game, or, like, you know, it's athletic. What we, as much as, like, you know, people don't think so, what we do is athletic, and the biggest part I think about that is, like, the hydration and the prep for it all. And, like, you start fueling your body with food and water and everything like you're a high class athlete, because in a way you are, and in a way that high class athletes are super physical. We are super physical and also super emotional. Art takes a lot out of us, and it always has, and it always will. Like, it will continue to do all of that. And I think the biggest thing is just drink a lot of water. Drink a lot of water, and that also, it's also just good for you. with the stress of everything, it's really easy to forget to do small things like drink water, eat a snack, and then it's like then you go to bed and you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, I've never had a drink of water ever, and then you guzzle 40 ounces of water and go right back to bed. We're going to prevent that, because the next thing that we're going to talk about prioritizing is our sleep. And it sounds counterintuitive, it's going to be difficult, like you're up late at rehearsal, you got to get, homework done and everything. However, sleep is really important, which is why it all ties back to, getting ahead with stuff. Because then if you are getting ahead with your work when you're at rehearsal, you won't have to be up after rehearsal doing it, and you can take a shower, go to bed, all those things. And just having a really good, night routine, I think, is also incredibly important, It kind of gives you time to, check out of the space, check out of your body, not out of your body, but, out of the world of your character's body, or the world of the dance or whatever you're performing. And when, once you're home, you can kind of dial back into who you are. You can kind of relax, take yourself out of the, stressful rehearsal situation. And that nighttime routine can be anything from, a crazy 12-step skincare routine and all these little fun little things, to just, I'm going to take a hot shower and listen to my favorite music and then go to bed by this hour. It can be as simple or as extravagant as what pleases you, but having that routine to come home to after tech has been super chaotic is really critical, especially for someone like me who's really routine oriented. Tech is really unpredictable, and you never quite know what is gonna go on, what is going to change or be altered, and that's a lot of kind of stress, a lot of back and forth to worry about. However, my biggest thing is just if you have that routine that it's gonna happen when you come home, or even if it's just I have a tub of ice cream in my freezer and I'm gonna eat a bowl of ice cream when I get home, even if it's just something to look forward to, something in the routine, it kind of helps ground you, helps pull you back together, and kind of gets you a fresh restart on the day. Also, a note on staying healthy with your priorities: get a lot of vitamin C, get a lot of zinc going on in there. My theater department in high school single-handedly kept Emergen-C, that drink mix company, alive. We had take these huge boxes of it backstage, and it's just again, do what you can to stay well. It's better to take bigger, louder precautions to not get sick than to half-ass it and get sick, and then you can't be in the show that you've been working maybe months on, So it is important, and it's something that is exclusively Tech Week. Taylor will be drinking all of the Emergen-C, specifically the orange one. The pink lemonade one isn't awesome. The orange Emergen-C really fed me in high school. It really, really got us on stage. Just take care of your body, take care of your mind and your soul and your spirit. And these are all kind of out of order, but having a solid warm-up and cool-down, I think, is similar to having that solid night routine for the human in you. I think that having the solid warm-up and cool-down is for the performer in you. You're able to take whatever time you need and enter the space, get into character, get into costume, whatever you need to do to kind of put yourself into the world as part of your warm-up. We talked about in our musical theater styles class, we talked about a warm-up being physical, mental, and kind of emotional, sort of, but just kind of a track. So physical, obviously, if you're dancing in the show, do things that you need to be warmed up for the dancing. If it's really leg heavy, get some lunges, get some squats, get some stretch, all the good things. Mental, kind of tap into the space, kind of get a focus going. Do what you need to do to kind of get yourself centered so that you can give your best work. And then as kind of a tracking, I kind of always took this as what does my character need? In MT Styles, we did a lot of character building, especially when we did chorus line. Because we could pick a chorus line dancer as someone in the show, or we could kind of like, if we were in chorus line, who would, like, what kind of dancer would we be? And there's a lot of character building in that, and kind of taking time to mentally put like human Taylor into the space, but then like extending that. This is getting like, whoo, this is getting like real up here, but kind of then extending that and reaching out and grabbing for, you know, kind of like, what does my character think? What do they feel? How are they doing? You know, energy. And I think that's the biggest thing, is just kind of tuning in with all parts of you and tuning in with everything that needs to happen in the space. Obviously, like, tune in with what's going on in your world, take what you need, set aside for now what you don't, and then obviously, you know, get yourself dialed in, get ready to focus, get ready to work, extend out to your character, be like, hey girl, what's up? You know, kind of tap into what they're thinking, and just like a good warm-up is really helpful with that. And then literally the entire thing in reverse for a good cool down, you know, kind of leave your character at the door, check back in on what's going on in your life. This is like, you know, cool your body down. This is like a good stretch, a good nice calm music, something soft, and this kind of just eases you out of the space and into that lovely night routine that we have set up, that we are so lovingly looking forward to. And I think just kind of bookending your text, I mean bookending every rehearsal, but especially for tech, just kind of bookending that as your big rehearsals, bookending it with a good warm-up and a good cool-down, I think is really, it's just beneficial. It's beneficial in all kinds of ways, and I think it can kind of help the whole process seem a lot smoother. Especially, like, I mean, my freshman year, I was in, like, a really heavy one act, and all of these things, like having good warm-up and a good cool-down and kind of giving yourself time to enter and leave the space, all of that was so beneficial, because it wasn't just like, oh, I'm going to my classes, I'm a student, and all of a sudden I'm crying and holding a prop gun on stage, and then, oh, I'm going home. Like, it wasn't as jarring because I gave myself time to, like, flow in and out of it. And I think that that's why I was honestly, like, it was a really heavy show, and I was kind of able to, not emotionally coast, that's, like, really dramatic, but just kind of able to write it and not feel so, like emotionally spent when I got out of it, or, like, my whole day, like, gets plummeted because I'm gonna go cry on stage, you know? And I think, like, having that ease into any rehearsal, but especially, like, a heavy tech or a heavy show, you know, kind of just fading in and fading out will be really beneficial to both. Also, your health. Your mind won't be then, like, the drive home, you won't be like, oh, that note, I messed that up, or, like, whatever. Like, obviously take your notes, do your thing. But I like to say, I'm not like this for everything, but especially for tech, if it's not happening in the theater, it is not happening at all. You know, like, if tech gets really hard, my friends and I will have a rule where, like, we don't talk about it unless we're there. You know, and if you're not in the theater right now, it's not something to worry about. And that's something I'm, like, constantly working on, constantly, you know, growing and changing and learning. But having that separation is really critical and important. And I think something that we sometimes kind of ignore, but having that separation, like, you know, if we're not in the theater, it's not something we're worrying about, or, you know, we're going to review our notes. Like, we took notes because we had notes at the end of rehearsal, but, you know, review them as part of your warm-up. You know, like, once you're out of the theater, step out of it. Step out of it and just come back into your own. And I think that's really important. So I have a few more, like, last rapid-fire things. One big bag versus a bunch of bags. Now, this can be kind of tricky if you are, like, still in high school, especially if you are in high school and you don't drive. But assuming that you are able to... No, let's assume that you have your school backpack and then, like, your tech stuff. Let's assume that you are just staying at school, like, all day, all night, and there's, like, you're not going home between, you don't have a car, whatever. One bag versus a bunch of bags. So you have your school backpack. What would make it easier for you, for your locker, for backstage storage, if you had your backpack with all your school stuff and then, like, a billion bags, or, like, one big bag? Highly recommend the one big bag. Your one big bag can be a tote bag. Your one big bag can be an Aldi bag. Your one big bag can be what else? Like a separate bag. You can have a tech backpack. And I'm talking like big bag. I'm talking like notebooks, costume pieces, like if you have any props that you have to bring, like your snacks, your water, stuff to do your homework. Like, consolidate your stuff as much as you can to one big bag. And one that will help you, like, know exactly where everything that you need is, because it's all, say it with me, in one big bag. And it's all one central location. It's also very easy for you to pack up and go at the end of the night if you're not juggling a bunch of things. Also, like, keep a change of clothes, or, like, if undergarments, whatever, if you're changing into costumes. But, yeah, trying your best to consolidate everything into one big bag is so important, because not only does it save you time packing up, because it's all one central location, you always know where your things are, and also it just saves space backstage. You know, if you're a high school theater, you know, you might not have a lot of space. Maybe you do, but mine really didn't. So if every single person in the cast and crew has like a million bags because they were at school all day, that's not a lot of room backstage to change or move set pieces or set props or prepare like scene changes and like all the things that need to happen backstage. And so just kind of consolidate all your belongings. Like, it's something that sounds really like, yeah, but if you don't think about it, you don't think about it. You know what I mean? Like, if this is kind of something that I was like, oh yeah, let's like consolidate our belongings. So yeah, another note that I have are just take pictures. Like, all of my favorite like theater pictures of like me and my friends were like taken during tech. Like, those moments where like, yes, it's stressful and it's crazy and it's busy, but like, we're happy and we're doing what we love, and these are our people. And take pictures. Everyone loves a good behind the scenes shot. Take pictures, document it, you know, just do all the things, because, and that's kind of part of my last point, which is just like, enjoy the ride. Enjoy it. Like, if, like I said in the cold open, like, and not even the cold open was about Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide, but like, even at the top of like this conversation, like, if you go into it with the attitude of like, it's gonna suck and it's gonna be hell and it's gonna be exhausting and bad and break us down, that whole thing, you know, it's going to be all those things. But if you go into it with the attitude of like, you know, it will be a lot of work and it will be chaotic and things, you know, might not go as smoothly as we want them to, but I'm with my friends, I'm doing what we love, I get to see our show that we've been working on for months get realized. You know, enjoy the ride. Tech is crazy, but it's also like, this is like it coming to life. Like, that's always my favorite part, is like seeing everyone in their costumes and seeing the set and the lights and like the finalized music and everything. And having all of that is like, it's just like, it's the show that you've been working on and you've been putting the love and the energy into is so exciting to see, like, be born and come to life and have all creative aspects there. Because then it's kind of starts, it becomes less of like this is a thing that I've been rehearsing, and more of this is a thing that people are gonna go see. And that's like kind of one of my favorite feelings, like in like the performance space, like when the show becomes something that other people can see and are going to see. It's just so, it's so lovely and beautiful, and I just really adore that. Really, really adore that. So yeah, I think that's all I really have to say about our Tech Week survival episode. Remember, sleep, eat, snacks, water. It's gonna be so much fun, and it's part of the process. It's part of the process to love it, love the ups, love the downs, love the chaos, and it's where the best memories are made. We'll have to be honest, and you learn a lot about yourself, you learn a lot about your friends and your cast, and it's just fun to see everyone's talents come together and build a show. And yeah, I think that's all I really have to say. Short episode today, but I'm glad to be back on this one-on-one. It's been fun to interview, but also kind of fun to get back to like where the podcast started. So yeah, if you want to follow the journey, you can follow the podcast at BFA Baby Podcast on Instagram, or you can follow me at Tata's Ballet, Married in a Kiss, and I'll see you in the next episode.